Never broke into a car, never hotwired a car, kid. Or never broke into a trunk. I shall not cause harm to any vehicle nor the personal contents thereof, nor through inaction let that vehicle or the personal contents thereof come to harm. It's what I call the Repo code, kid. Don't forget it. Etch it in your brain. Not many people got a code to live by anymore. Hey, look at that. Look at those assholes over there. Ordinary fucking people. I hate them.
Me too.
What do you know, kid?
See, an ordinary person spends his life avoiding tense situations. Repo man spends his life getting into tense situations.
And then we followed up with
Assholes.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and welcome to, I guess, what is this, episode 3 of the birthday month?
Yeah, it'd be episode 3, yep.
That's crazy and awesome, and hey, it's me. We're celebrating, right?
Exactly. I mean, it was my idea, so yeah, of course.
And of course, Sam Stepanenko.
Hello.
And unfortunately, Trish is away for this recording. She's dealing with some family stuff, so she's going to be kind of in and out of the studio for the next little bit. Hopefully, we will see her again shortly, once she gets everything sorted. But she will be back. Until then, we've got Mrs. Stepanenko, Val, the voice of, what was it? The voice of 2016?
2016, yeah.
The voice of 2016.
How's it going?
Hey.
Minus the Italian accent this time.
That's right. We'll do it straight today.
Let's go straight today.
And today we are going to be talking about a cult classic, Repo Man, from 1984, written and directed by Alex Cox, who would do Sid and Nancy.
Yes, probably his most well-known film after this one.
And a follow-up to this one in 2009 called Repo Chick that I didn't even know existed until I did my research.
Me either. And I have no desire to see it because it looks terrible.
It does look terrible, but, this one probably did too at some point, so I'm okay with that. I might give it a go.
Maybe, yeah. I know, it's interesting when you watch this movie, and it's because it is so subculture in so many ways. It was considered one of the best films in 1984.
Yeah, absolutely. This movie has a 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb, a 98% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes with a 79% audience score. I don't think it's that good.
I know, nor do I.
I enjoy it.
No.
I don't think Val liked it.
No, but see, that's why we do this, because we can make it better.
That's right.
At least try.
At least try. I mean, I love the subculture of this and the 70s punk aspect of it. I didn't get into punk till way later, and I didn't see this movie until probably the 90s myself.
That probably sounds about right for you, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the budget of this was $1.5 million. It wasn't a huge success, but its cult status got other things made. The U.S. gross for the worldwide gross for this was $3,750,000 roughly worldwide. So a little more than double its budget. So for a low budget, I guess that's okay, but it certainly wasn't going to make them race to make another one.
No, it certainly wasn't. And I mean, Alex Cox is really well known for doing these these really hardcore indie films. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites of his is Straight to Hell, which a lot of people even know about.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one either.
Yeah, recommend it. I do recommend it.
Yeah, he definitely had his thumb on the pulse of the punk movement. In fact, he got to do the ultimate punk movie.
With Sid Nancy, yeah.
Nancy. So, and of course, we wanted to talk about this one specifically. I mean, I wanted to talk about it because it's a kind of a weird cult movie that I think it deserves to be revisited. But, you know, Harry Dean Stanton had also passed away recently, and he was the star of this movie, and probably a thorn in Alex's side during the production of this, based on some of the reading that I was doing about it. He was difficult to work with a little bit because he's worked with big directors prior to this, so there was a lot of, well, you know, do it this way. Well, real actors will just use cue cards taped to the dash of the car. Memorize the goddamn lines, Harry.
He was a pretty well-established actor, but and had already quite a career under his belt when he did this. But yeah, and when you're a young indie director, somebody like Harry Dean Stanton could probably be a bit of a challenge. Yeah,
and I think he was just trying to see what he could get away with, honestly, when you're an established actor with more experience than your director.
Oh, yeah, and then everybody else in the cast, for that matter.
Yeah, a pretty young, inexperienced cast. Harry Dean Stanton played Bud, and Emilio Estevez in a very early role, but a really important breakout role for him.
It really was, yeah. I think it's the one that sort of brought him the attention of a lot of other directors that got him into these other roles that made him so famous for such a short time, really. Like the 80s and 90s, he's just kind of gave up acting, and I guess he's doing producing and directing now, but you don't hear much from him anymore.
Yeah, this is kind of that slow build. He still was quiet for a few more years, and then Young Guns comes along. And
Breakfast Club.
Yeah, things like that. You know, he had a few hits early on, and then kind of subsided, and then a little bit later on, Young Guns come along and Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
I love the Mighty Ducks. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says.
I love the first one, too. They get kind of cheesy after the first one, but the first one's a good movie.
Every couple of years, I like to sit down and watch all three of them.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that a fictional hockey team is a real one now. I don't know if I'm ever going to get over that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I like their logo.
Yeah,
it's cute.
Also starred Tracy Walter, who's one of those faces you would know when you saw it. Like, he was in Westerns.
He was in everything from about the mid-'60s all the way up until about the mid-'90s.
Right.
And he's still working.
Yeah.
He's very distinctive.
Olivia Barish was also in this. Cy Richardson, Susan Barnes, Fox Harris, and Tom Finnegan, along with a whole bunch of other people. Del Zamora, Eddie Velez, Xander Schloss, Jennifer Bolgobbin. It just keeps going and going because this cast of this movie is pretty immense, actually.
It was huge.
It was huge.
It was huge.
They don't waste anything on their screen most of the time for the low budget that they have.
There's a lot happening in this movie, and it's and I think that's why sometimes it can be a little challenging to watch. Like, I don't hate this movie. I don't know that it deserves the reverence it gets, but it's definitely really, really busy on screen.
It is. I tend to just kind of be watching it and forget, like, it's about this car and what's in the trunk of the car. But you tend to forget that because it's those little car scenes are just kind of like...
Yeah, the MacGuffin is the 64 Chevy Malibu with the dead aliens in the trunk, or we think they're dead.
Well, yeah, you never really know. It's very Pulp Fiction, or Pulp Fiction owes an awful lot to that particular conceit in this movie. The mystery thing in the briefcase versus the mystery thing in the trunk.
There's that brief, weird-looking picture that just looks like sausages or whatever, and turned out it was condoms with grass skirts on them. That's what they used to make that picture. I know. Just the truth of the matter is even weirder than the movie.
Well, when I saw the picture, I'm like, that looks really phallic. Yeah. And that explains why.
That would be why. They're condoms filled with water and grass skirts. So where do you get grass skirts for something like that?
I don't know, from some sort of tiki bar where they put them around the drinks.
Yeah, I suppose.
Really tiny little. Hilarious.
They're from a very...
We'll have to ask Tex,
planet.
because if anybody knows where to get them, it'd be Tex.
Audience doesn't know who Tex is. Maybe. Have we talked about Tex on the show?
I think we've mentioned him once or twice before, but...
We'll just let the legend of Tex linger.
Yes. He will be one of our few in-jokes.
Yeah. This movie, when I say nothing's wasted, like, every character kind of has a payoff. You'll miss it if you're not paying attention to every character, anything that's in a scene there's a reason for it to be there, and even if it's like advertising for that stupid tree air freshener.
Yes.
Like every car, including a motorcycle, has this thing because these guys paid to be there, so they're like, all right, we're going to put them in the most ridiculous places. So every car's got it, including a motorcycle that doesn't need an air freshener because it's open air. Come on now.
Yeah, no, and that speaks to Alex Cox's sense of humor too, and it's present in a lot more scenes, but certainly that's really a great little shot of a joke. I mean, and they even deliver a line. Harry Dean Stanton has that line. It's like, you'll find one in every car. Every car.
Every car. Yeah. And it's absolutely true. Yeah. It's in every car. Early on when they were starting to shoot this film, just to kind of save them on transport, they had Alex Cox, the director, drive around the Malibu from set to set, so it just kind of cut down the costs a little bit. So he was going to a meeting, and while they were at the meeting, the car was stolen.
Seriously?
Seriously. So, of course, the set guys and the prop guys just were in a panic and like, oh shit, our hero car is gone. Yeah. So they had to rush out, try to find another one. And then they bought one, and then it wound up that the original Chevy Malibu was found abandoned somewhere in California, in LA there, and they managed to get it back unscathed. So now they had two hero cars, which was good because I guess one of the actors drove the Malibu into one of the gas tanks. If you see one of the scenes, there's a really dented thing at the gas station there. That's what it's from, is they drove the car into it.
Way to go, guys. This is from a guy who actually tore a gas tank or a gas pump off its moorings at one point.
I have seen this a few times.
Yes.
I know somebody else who did that.
Yeah, shit happens.
That's the thing. This movie's full of just wild and weird shit. Conspiracies, aliens, and just the regular stuff of the adventure of the car repossession.
Yes, yeah, and it's fun to watch the sort of the Otto's growth as a repo man. It's a great sub story to this whole movie because it really sort of is the pretext to his search for the Malibu. Right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, his growth and his experiences as a repo man.
Well, yeah, he falls into it. At the beginning of the movie, he's got this mundane job with Kevin pricing stuff at a grocery store.
Yeah,
and he gets fired. He's a typical punk. He's like, oh, this sucks.
Fuck authority.
Fuck authority, all that shit. He falls into the repo gig just by accident. Bud tricks him into picking up the car.
Yeah.
Hey, I need my sick grandmother or whatever, and can you follow me with this car? I'll give you $25 or something like that.
Yeah, he negotiates it up to 20, I think, is what ends up happening. Yeah, he says, I'll give you $10, $15, 20. And there's a fun joke there. I mean, when he finally does drop off the car, it's like, well, what about your wife? And he's like Bud's already forgotten about the lie that he told.
He's like, oh yeah,
Otto, yeah.
Initially, he's not too thrilled about it. Like, he's offered the job, and he's like, well, screw you, you're repo man.
Yeah.
When he realizes this is a job, not just a job, but it's something a little bit different, he kind of changes his tune on it.
Well, yeah,
it's an adventure.
It is an adventure. I think that's part of it, and it's funny how he so quickly is behind his punk sensibilities and his punk family, as it were, right, and moves into the repo man role by wearing the suit jacket and the dress shirt and carrying the briefcase. And it's actually kind of fun to see that transition, because right? He does it so quickly.
Yeah, well, I think he's looking at Bud as a little bit of a hero figure for him as he teaches him the code. Yeah. Most people are trying to get out of tense situations. Being a repo man is nothing but tense situations.
And it's true, and they made that very apparent. I mean, with him getting shot at and getting beat up.
He wasn't very good at it.
Well,
he wasn't very good at the repo business. He needed a little more practice.
He did need a little more practice.
He did need a little more practice, yes. It's kind of funny because Bud would always manipulate Otto into the more dangerous situations.
It's true.
And he's the one who said, yeah, no, getting a car isn't worth losing your life over.
No, and that's why he had Otto.
Yeah, and it's funny because as the movie progresses, I feel like Light becomes more more the guiding figure than Bud, because Bud kind of disappears for a little while.
Yeah, it is interesting because Bud is off doing his own thing. He's focused on finding that Malibu.
Yeah, once the Malibu is announced is the ultimate repo, because I think what was the return
the
on
bounty
this,
on it was $20,000.
$20,000, yeah.
And it was an ugly car.
It was originally chosen because of its interesting boxy shape. But
it is pretty interesting visually.
It's considered a classic now.
Yeah, I think they wanted it to look as unique as possible, and that it worked, right? Mm-hmm. Especially considering this was set in the late 70s, early 80s, where this was already becoming a classic.
Yeah, the car would have been about 20 years old at this point, when the film was made. So,
yeah. So, I don't know much about cars, but I'm sure that it was already at that point something that people were looking at as a desirable car.
I'll agree, it's an ugly car.
It was an ugly car.
Especially the color, right? I mean, it's like that sort of puce, metallic brown.
Yeah. I was like trying to figure out what the fascination was, why they put such a high price tag on this car. And every time the car came on scene, and the guy's driving it and he's got like the one glass in his eye, one missing. I'm looking at the car going, I don't get it.
It's because it was what was in the trunk.
Maybe it's because I'm a girl. Mm-hmm. I don't really understand cars all that much, but
it's all about what's in the trunk, and you've got men in black looking for it, and agents, and this scientist is driving the car, slowly getting radiation poisoning as he's driving it, and the opening scene really sets the pace of this movie, where a cop pulls him over, what's in the trunk? You shouldn't look in there. Looks in the trunk, and it vaporizes him.
Yeah, all he's left is a pair of boots.
Pair of boots, and that's when you get to that bit, and you're like, "This is gonna be a weird ass movie."
Yeah, then it starts out weird right off the gate.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like, it almost feels like there's a little bit of, it gets almost to a Naked Lunch kind of level at some points.
There are some points there, yeah. Especially with the weird black hat lady with the quote unquote metal hand. Yeah. Who so needs to be fixed.
Well, I read about her. She was supposed to have a bionic arm, but it's something that they couldn't feasibly do on the budget that they had. So she just had this glove, and it just comes off really weird. Why is everybody focused on her glove?
Yeah, yeah. The punks are all like worshipful of it, and
so nobody realizes that it's supposed to be a metal arm.
Yeah, because it was about as low budget gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. First thing we're fixing.
Fair. Well, we're just giving you a taste of the weirdness. How about we run a trailer and we'll dive right into this thing?
What you got in the trunk?
You don't want to look in there.
Suppose you're thinking about a plate of shrimp. Suddenly somebody will say, like, plate or shrimp or plate of shrimp out of the blue, no explanation. No point in looking for one either. It's all part of a cosmic unconsciousness.
You eat a lot of acid, Miller, back in the hippie days?
Sell that car and send me your money. You don't need that car.
Put it on a plate, son. You'll enjoy it more.
Couldn't enjoy it anymore, Mom. This is swell.
What's this?
Charming friends you got there, Otto.
Thanks. I made it myself.
I had a lobotomy in the end.
Lobotomy? Isn't that for loonies?
Not at all. A friend of mine had one. I do my best thinking on the bus. That's how come I don't drive, see?
You don't even know how to drive.
I don't want to know how. I don't want to learn, see? The more you drive, the less intelligent you are.
right. There's your taste.
And one of the lines in there reminded me of a scene that really actually did disturb me in this movie. And that was the scene where he's eating the dog food out of the can, and his mom says, "Why don't you put it on a plate? It'll taste better." I'm like, oh, that is just.
They're not even looking. Yeah, there's a scene, and they're watching what I guess was a televangelist or something, like zombies.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I'm like, are they going to have zombies in this too? Like, is there some sort of weird alien possession thing going on here?
And kind of, yes.
I mean, there's all sorts of little commentary like that in here as well. And it probably would have resonated more back then when televangelists were a huge deal at the time. There's even a shot of Dianetics.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there are a lot of shots and a lot of stuff in this movie when you really look at it.
Oh, yeah. No, like I said at the beginning, this is a densely filled movie, and you are going to guarantee on your first watch you're not going to catch it all.
No. I've seen it now probably 3 times, and the first time I barely got through it because it is so dense, and I was young enough that I couldn't comprehend what I was watching.
I think this might have been my second go-around, and I barely remembered any of it.
There was lots I remembered this time, but lots of stuff I'd forgotten too. Was this your first watch, though?
I think it was, I'm pretty sure I seen it back in the 80s. But, I mean, I can't remember what I did last week. So watching it again was like watching it for the first time for me. But there were parts in there that I really enjoyed about it.
The funny thing is when you talk about movies like what we do on the podcast, like sometimes I'm on the fence about how I felt about the movie. And as we talk it through, I'm like, yeah, no, I did like that part. Oh, I like that part. Right? And that's part of the fun of doing this is you change. Sometimes your feelings on a movie changes as you talk about it.
Now, this movie, I mean, it's got so many characters. I mean, there's the roommate / coworker Kevin, who actually wound up being the lead singer or part of an actual punk band.
Yeah, he's from the Circle Jerks.
Yeah, he's from the Circle Jerks. And there's a lot of punk in this movie, obviously. Iggy Pop did that opening thing. All sorts of references along the way. You've got some other people from his punk group who are actually knocking off convenience stores and liquor stores. And Otto and Bud keep missing them.
Yes,
until near the end.
Yeah, and they are his best friend or his ex-best friend and his ex-girlfriend and some other guy.
Yeah.
His ex-best friend who just got out of juvie. Mm-hmm. And they seem a little old for just getting out of juvie. That's one of the things that changes. Is they definitely are older. I'd just put them in their mid-20s most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At least in terms of those particular characters.
Yeah, maybe they're stunted in their education.
It could be, yeah. But yeah, I that was one of the things I did find hard to swallow is that he just gotten out of juvie.
And I don't think it's important.
No, it's a very easy thing to fix, right?
Yeah, you just don't mention it.
Yeah, you just got out. Doesn't have to
just
say
got out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Prison doesn't matter where.
Prison, the psych ward. Who knows?
Yeah.
Actually, it would be more fun if he had just gotten out of the psych ward.
Yeah, well, yeah, why not? Everything else has got to be weird in this movie.
Yeah.
So,
well, and he's clearly nuts. I mean,
oh yeah,
right? Like he is quite clearly psychopathic.
Are you talking about the bald kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely not on the normal spectrum.
I wouldn't say most of the Repo men are quite there either. But
there's nobody in this movie that's on the normal spectrum.
No.
Not a single person. Except for maybe the lady who works in the Repo office. I think she's
Marlene.
Marlene. I think she's she's the closest thing to normal in this whole movie.
Yeah, she seems to be like the voice of reason, and everybody else just seems to be insane. Like every security guard seems to think they're fucking Rambo.
Yes. When really they're useless as shit.
Yep.
And I mean Kevin's pretty close to is probably close to normal, but he's not very bright.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I love the fact that he gets fired from the grocery store and then he's working at the gas bar, and I love the fact that they bring him back to play a key role, right?
Yeah, everybody kind of, like, if they appear on screen, they're usually there more than once.
Yeah.
Like that lady who's giving Otto shit for running into her garbage.
Yes.
She turns up again later on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? It's probably because they had so many people in it. They probably like did all of these scenes in one day, so they don't have to pay them for one day's worth of work. So they used them as many times as they could to fill out the film.
Maybe,
right?
Maybe.
I mean, if I were doing a low budget film, that's the way I do it.
Yeah,
right. Especially if you're as talented a writer as the writers of this film are.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it feels like it doesn't feel like any of them are extras. It feels like everybody got a fair amount. An equal amount of screen time.
Well, it was funny.
All of the characters it just felt like they were all equal.
It was funny. I was at work and I get a text from Val saying we're watching Repo Man, right? And then a little bit later on, she goes, "There are so many characters in this movie."
Yeah, it's like a library of them, and I'm like, I don't know who to recast.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say it's impossible to recast everybody, but you don't need to either.
No,
you just need to sort of your key core characters.
Yeah, I mean your key are Bud, Otto, Light, and Layla. Yeah, that's kind of your core cast.
Oh, and you need
you
Tracy's character
and J. Frank Parnell.
Yeah. You need Fox Harris there as well. Yeah, Parnell.
Yeah, it was fun, and I did love the music.
Oh yeah. No,
thought the soundtrack was a lot of fun.
And I think that's large part of why this film is so revered is because it was probably the first movie that tapped into the growing punk phenomenon in America, right? And treated the culture with a little bit of respect, but also showed the darker side of it with the behavior of his friends, right? Right? So it was a nice balance, sort of kind of showing both of those.
Yeah, and the tone of the film kind of shows the irreverence of the movement itself.
Yes,
just in as a tonal thing.
Yeah, the how anarchistic it is. Right?
Yeah,
and it really is. This movie is anarchy. There's so much happening, and there's no order at all.
No, and Otto's a shitheel of a person. In many respects, Emilio Estevez is terribly miscast in this movie.
But it's nice because he's playing against what people thought was his type, right?
Yeah.
So it is kind of nice to see him in this type of role. And I mean, you kind of see this character pop up in Young Guns when you really think about it.
I suppose
a little bit, right? Where he's not really a bad person, but he's not a good person either. He's just selfish.
He's constantly hitting on women.
Yes.
Not looking for a relationship, especially the way he tosses Layla later on.
Yeah.
Granted, he did get tortured by her.
Yes.
That has a way of changing things, unless you're into that sort of thing.
And it's consensual, which it wasn't.
It was not consensual.
Unless you're into that.
Consent is always key.
And safe words. Don't forget safe words.
Too funny.
And she comes off real crazy too when he picks her up off just the side of the street.
Yeah, she is most definitely not normal.
Yeah, she comes off crazy. It turns out she's not, because she talks about this alien conspiracy. The guy who Parnell, who's driving the car, and she's trying to meet up, and she's got photo proof of the aliens, and it turns out all of this just gets. She uses it and everything and gets famous for it.
Yeah.
And she isn't nuts. Oh, how about that?
But it brings up one of my favorite scenes in the movie where she gets into the phone booth and she's calling Parnell and he's across the street. And she's like, "Are you using a scrambler? I can't understand you. I'm using a scrambler."
And then, of course, the Men in Black guy capture him right away.
Yes. Well, they were trying to kill him.
Yeah, they were trying to kill him.
Yeah. Unsuccessfully, fortunately, but...
Yeah. Oh, he loses his car a couple of times.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Only just to get it back later on.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Rodriguez brothers.
Yes, mustn't forget them, because they are, again, critical in the movie, because they play key parts.
Yeah, they are the competing Repo Men. But I think they're fully licensed and are on good terms with the police department.
They are they're legitimate repo business, but they're
assholes.
They're assholes, and they themselves are frequently owners of cars that require repossessing. They kind of make that clear that they're not just repo men. They're also...
We're not the owners of a company. We're also clients.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, right, because that was one of the confrontations between the Otto and Bud's crew and the Rodriguez brothers. They try to repossess a car that they actually own outright, right? Because these guys, they've repossessed cars from the Rodriguez brothers before,
right?
Which is what part of the animosity between them. And aside from the fact everybody's a dick in this movie, really.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And one of the alternate endings was Otto joining some sort of Southern American militia with the Rodriguez brothers.
The ending was weird enough. That would have taken it in a direction I'm not sure
and yeah,
it would have worked.
Believe it or not, that's weirder than the aliens.
Yes. The car painted in glow-in-the-dark paint.
Yeah, I kind of liked it because it made a really cool effect without actually being a special effect.
Yeah.
It was legitimately iridescent paint that they used to make that effect, and it worked really well.
It did work really well. I'm like, I should be bothered by that, but I like it. It fits the sensibility of the movie very well.
Yeah, well, you just think the car is going to go nuclear, which I guess was another alternate ending, by the way.
Was this movie kind of set more in futuristic, but not obvious futuristic? Because I remember the scene when the shootout scene with the punk kids close to the end when they were taking over the convenience store, and everyone gets shot. Except for Emilio Estevez. If you look at the products on the shelf, it was like they were all white boxes and they say like soap and, there was no obvious... It was starting to feel... It almost kind of had that Lost, the series Lost feeling. You're smiling because there's something that I don't know, but it almost felt like the whole movie was futuristic. Like...
Go ahead, Sam. We're both like, who wants to take this?
It's because Cox couldn't get permission to use any real products in his movie. So,
and this was also a time where generic products in supermarkets were huge. I mean, we're getting it again with Superstore and whatnot have no name branded products. That was one, a way around product placement, and two, to be a commentary on how generic society was getting and how boring it was becoming, and that was part of why he did it that way.
But there were a couple other things, and like I said, I can't remember what I did last week, but I wish I could remember. But there were a couple other things that I noticed throughout the movie where I kind of got that feeling that it was set a little more in the future.
Yeah, I don't think it was, but they don't go out of their way to tell you
when it is
either. But I mean, the cars and everything else kind of place it in the 80s and in the punk movement too. It really kind of makes it seem like it's got to be late 70s, early 80s.
But the city, just the feel of the city, feels like, post-apocalyptic.
No, it's just LA.
It's just LA.
Sorry, Los Angeles. I didn't mean to offend you. You live in a post-apocalyptic world.
Especially, parts of it, especially in the 80s, were in really poor repair, right? I mean, I'm sure there are parts that are still kind of run down like that. That is, the larger city gets, the more rundown areas you seem to find.
Well, and a lot of it was shot in and around the lot that they own where they bring the cars. And that literally was an empty lot. They had to build the building and everything. So, what you see is it was probably just a arid wasteland that they filmed it on.
Our
just
neighborhood
outside
that was
of
in
the city.
decline, right?
Yeah.
The scene in the bar, like it's the one scene that I don't want changed, I don't want removed or anything. When he goes to the club, it's like he's had a hard day of being a repo man. Then he goes in for a drink and he's sitting at the bar, and the band that's playing, it's a bunch of older guys with like brightly colored jackets with sequins on.
Wasn't that actually the Circle
Jerks?
Jerks?
That was actually Circle Jerks, yeah.
He's like, oh man, I used to like this band. And I'm listening to this music and I'm thinking, man, it's just so bad, but it's awesome. It's just badly awesome. It was fun.
It was fun, yeah.
I used to like these guys, he says. And don't change that scene at all. Just leave it exactly the way it was.
It would be cool if we could get the Circle Jerks to do that again. Right? Especially considering now they are older guys.
In the jackets. It was very Richard Cheese. It was like...
there's a lot of, like, as you're watching the movie, you can see a lot of modern films. And musicians actually owe stuff to this movie. Right? I mean, we talk about this a lot.
Mass exposure for them.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about how some of these cult movies do influence more recognizable movies and musicians. Right? I mean, Iggy Pop went on to become like a superstar for a brief moment in time, and everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, there's a band who did a song called "Play to Shrimp."
Yeah,
which we heard in the trailer.
Yeah. And then there's we were before the podcast we were talking about Pablo Picasso Was Never Called an Asshole, which is a favorite of mine from the 80s. It was, and I'd forgotten it was in this film, so as I started playing, I'm singing along.
I wound up doing the same thing.
I mean, the music really is another character in this movie.
Yeah, I would say so. Like the car is a character among the human actors, and even the energy in the trunk of the car, and it gets there's about 6 people who die in this movie.
Yep,
and the car gets to kill 2 of them.
yeah, both of them pair of boots. T-shirt idea.
Ooh, pair of boots. Anybody want a T-shirt with pair of boots? Let us know.
With smoke coming out of them.
Yeah.
A little bit of flesh hanging off the edges. Yeah.
I like it. And then just one of our invasion UFOs.
Yes. Yeah, it ties in very nicely, actually.
It does. I like it. We have a thing there.
Yeah.
Coming to our store whenever we get that ready.
Yes. Whenever you start telling people to listen to us and they actually start doing it.
Yeah. And, as we said, this is regarded as one of the best film of the 80s, and there was supposed to be a sequel called Waldo's Hawaiian Holiday.
Oh, that was supposed to be the sequel to
That was
Repo
supposed
Man?
to be the sequel, a quasi-sequel to Repo Man. And I'll just read the dust sleeve here, because, yes, I own it. It was eventually adapted. It was partly actually filmed, but never finished. And the screenplay was adapted to a comic book, which I hold in my hand, a graphic novel. And it takes 10 years after Repo Man, and the filmmaker Alex Cox became interested in this idea for a sequel. Specifically, what had happened to Otto during his 10-year absence from Earth, and what would he make of the changes which had taken place in his absence. Otto, it would appear, has been held prisoner in great luxury on the planet Mars. Now he has returned to Earth and changed his name to Waldo. So it's its own unique adventure, but...
Was it good?
I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
Get on it.
I only got it. I didn't have a chance to read it before the podcast here, but yeah, there was supposed to be the sequel, and then of course we got Repo Chick later in 2009, which nobody saw because nobody knows existed, and it has a terrible rating on IMDb of like 3.9.
It's because nobody knew it existed. No one saw it. How can you get a rating if no one saw it?
The 3 people who saw it didn't like it.
Yeah. We'll take their word for it. 3's a good number.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, Alex Cox's style worked very well in the mid 80s to early 90s, but doesn't so much anymore. He didn't grow as a filmmaker so much as he could have.
No, and I can think of filmmakers that have a similar aesthetic, that like a lot of characters and a lot of chaos in their films.
Yes.
And we'll get to that into our casting aspect of the podcast. The first guy who popped in my mind, I'm like, yep, he knows how to do that. Yeah. In many ways, and I would suspect he probably saw Repo Man and was influenced by it later on.
It wouldn't surprise me, like I said, because Alex Cox did some seminal films in the 80s that a lot of maybe hit popular culture in a lot of in the way that
between this and Sid and Nancy, like how many writer directors can say they have like 2 cult hits under their belt?
That's true.
I mean, I wouldn't say theatrical hits because I don't know if either one of them did particularly well in the theater, but they certainly did post-theatrical, and they were both given a new lease on life when it came to home video.
Oh, for sure.
And a lot of them do. Same thing happens when we talked 2 weeks ago about Highlander.
It did, yeah. And look at the both those movies that we're talking about, Sid and Nancy and Repo Man. The sort of lead guy, this was like a breakout role for both of them. Mm-hmm. Because you had Gary Oldman as Sid Vicious, and this was his first sort of real exposure to North America. Mm-hmm. Right? Even then, I mean, you could see the talent in that man, and now We don't know yet if he's won an Academy Award, but
Yeah, we're recording in advance, but as of this recording, the Oscars are this evening. So because we're doing a couple episodes in a row here, you may not figure out who won the bet until a couple more weeks away, or last week maybe. I don't know, because we're literally recording things out of order, and we did
due to some scheduling conflicts, we're trying to sort of squeeze some extras in so that we don't miss any weeks of content for you.
Exactly.
Our loyal listeners.
Yes, our lives have gotten a little complicated this week, so we're doing doubling up in some of our recordings, and things are going to be a little out of order for
us, but not for you.
Yeah, everything will make sense in the long run, and that's part of the chaos. And I figure Repo Man figures very well into that chaos.
Yeah, it's actually, this is very appropriate to the current situation.
Exactly.
Well, maybe not that appropriate. Our lives aren't that weird.
No, I still haven't been chosen by some glowing alien radiation car that will take me into space.
If I have, I'm not telling.
Somehow I don't think the glowing alien car is going to be a Kia.
No, although it is green.
Well, there's that.
But doesn't have a trunk.
Full of dead sausages.
Definitely does not have one of those.
It's kind of a trunk. Kinda.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Sorta.
Sorta. But
kinda a trunk.
Wouldn't hide any dead bodies, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
But we talked a lot about how much we like, about all the things we like about this movie. But what would we do to remake it? Because we've talked about like keeping that one scene that Val loves so much, and the phone booth scene, which I love so much, and of course that music. I don't know about that. I'd want to change the times, the setting, because
I mean the punk movement is very key to its time frame. I mean, there's still punk music, obviously, but
and there always, I think there always will be. But
yeah,
it's not the same in terms of social awareness that it was, right? And I don't think bringing it into a current subculture like the hipsters, is going to work.
You know, as a period sci-fi that it is, I still think it works well in its setting, and I don't feel the necessity of changing that too much, and kind of going into that 80s kookiness, like that seems to be actually really in vogue right now.
Yes.
What was that 20-minute thing that was that YouTube thing, that Kung Fu with the dinosaurs and the
Kung Fury,
and David Hasselhoff has been greenlit for a full feature now, which just makes me deliriously happy.
I don't know if I can handle a feature length of that. I like I love the 20-minute version. I don't know about the feature version. I don't know. We'll save that for a later conversation.
Oh yeah, we will for sure.
That's the problem with this movie. There's not much you can change, right?
Quicken it up a little bit. Maybe put some Repo montages.
You think it's slow? It's not. It's not. I think the music really helps the pacing of the movie, and you probably need a little bit more utilize it more judiciously, because I don't think they use that enough to help keep that pace going. Because it's only a 90-minute movie, and it's frenetic. There is a shit ton going on.
Well, it feels like it took me about 2.5 hours
92.
to watch it.
92 minutes, yeah.
No, it feels longer than that. But
there's some scenes that really seem to draw it out, and it's just select scenes where there's a lot of dialogue, and you're right, like music or something else needs to be happening there where they just
even the dialogue, it's feels snappy to me, but I think it's because the inexperience of the actors delivering it,
and that might be
the only really great actor in this is Harry Dean Stanton.
I'm sorry, Tracy Walter. Is a great
Tracy Walter did pretty good with his stuff too.
Yeah,
he was pretty good.
But yeah, I think
John Wayne is a fag.
Yes. Oh, that scene was awesome.
I'll play that for you at the end credits.
There's nothing wrong with the dialogue. Repo, man, I want to see more Repo. I want to see more cars. And
they did quite a bit of that.
Quicken up the pace a little bit.
They did, but they're not very exciting either.
No, and maybe that's just sort of tweak those just enough to make to bring up the energy level in those scenes, because they did kind of all the Repo scenes felt kind of flat.
I agree. Yeah.
In the end, except for the one where he's talking to that elderly grandmother, and he's going to repo. He's given her a choice. He wasn't. Gonna, if you can pay, and because we don't want to repo, we'd rather collect the money. And then her grandsons come in.
Huge.
The car's up on blocks or whatever.
And he tries to take the car anyway.
Yeah, that was the only one that was actually
Had some
entertaining.
action to
right?
it, yeah.
And the scene where they get shot at was also not bad. It set a specific tone and answered a question at the same time, right? About light when he's shooting back at the house, but it's blanks.
Everybody has their own kind of style, and where Bud says, he doesn't carry a gun or anything because a car's not worth dying for. Yeah. Light has one. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He'll play the tough guy as much as possible.
Yeah. The other thing about that particular scene is it shows that Otto really thrives on the adrenaline that he gets from taking the car.
Oh,
but
for
when it
sure.
gets too tense, he panics.
Yeah, I mean, there's that chase in the aqueduct with the Rodriguez's. Initially, he's just panicking, and then afterwards, he's like, woo, yeah, oh!
Yeah, he gets off of the adrenaline, but he does panic quite easily.
Yeah.
And that's shows part of his growth because he stops panicking. Right, like at the end of the movie, there's no panic in this kid at all.
No, he's willing to get into a glowing radiation car to fly into space with a guy who can't drive.
Yes.
But that's because he just spent an hour and a half participating in this boring movie, and now he wants a little more excitement in his life. Sorry, I don't mean to be a downer. It had its moments. The movie had its moments.
Yeah, and one of the things I would fix would be our black hats. The government agency I love the conformity of them. I mean, again, another thing speaking to about the 80s and the lack of how homogenous the 80s have become, but they weren't very well handled. And I get partly that's because of the budget. I mean the football helmet haircuts and the weird boss lady, but their facility was clearly done on a low budget, and I'd fix things like that.
They could dress that a little bit better, and I would actually have the Men in Black even look more alike in uniform.
I'd love to get like twins to play them.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, now that they're almost decrypted in of themselves, they all have a similar look and they're bald or whatever. We've seen this in TV shows. Like, let's play up to that conspiracy as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to see more of that because they tried. They did. That was clearly the direction they were kind of going, was to make them all look the same, right?
Oh yeah, and the robot arm chick.
Yes,
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Rogers,
yeah. And I'd definitely make that robot arm very clearly a robot arm.
Yeah, for sure.
Her strangeness was one of the things that I didn't quite feel fit. Like, I could see why they were doing it, but
she feels like a Bond villain.
Yeah, it didn't. Her strangeness didn't seem to have a purpose. Mm-hmm. Right? And that was what bothered me about her character is if her strangeness had a purpose, or was an explanation for why she was so strange. Mm-hmm. Right? I think I would have enjoyed seeing her on screen more than I did. Don't get me wrong, I thought she was fun when she was on screen, but there was always that missing piece for me.
Well, I want to know, maybe they were responsible for the crash of the aliens anyway, and the corpses were taken away before they could get to the scene. Maybe they are alien themselves, and that's what their motivation is to claim the bodies of their enemy.
Yeah. Right, yeah, there could have been something like that, or maybe they were.
It's not like we could build cybernetic arms in the 80s.
No, that's true. Now we can actually build cybernetic arms. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Then again, we had the $6 Million Man in the 60s, so.
I love the $6 Million Man.
Who didn't?
I don't think there's anybody who didn't love that movie.
It was awesome.
We all know how to make the noise.
Oh my God, you knew that was going to happen, folks. Had to happen. You're probably doing it too at home, aren't you?
It's okay. You don't need to be embarrassed.
We
cool. Won't tell.
It's cool.
It'll be even better if you're doing it on the bus.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at you, Kyle.
Please do it on the bus, Kyle. Not that.
Oh.
Do the Bionic Man. Not do the Sorry, moving on.
Yeah, but I mean, we could just simply clarify their backstory just a little bit.
Yeah, some clarification. I mean, what kind of commentary can we tell now that would be a little more relevant, I think, to audiences today? I mean, that's the good thing about science fiction and whatnot. And, I do feel like the thing with the generic packaging and stuff, the homogenous society, still applies.
Oh, it absolutely does. The only thing that I think you could add to make it relevant now, that would add to its relevancy, would be to add some bleeding hearts. some leave the aliens alone people, right? The social justice warriors. You add that type of character into that, and then you've taken.
Oh, well, that should be Layla.
It should be Layla.
Yeah.
Right. And
then a little bit more of that on the TV screens.
Yeah.
In the reporting.
Yeah. And I think that will just add that one bit to make it relevant to today's audiences. Add that commentary, at least into it for today's audiences, to those who won't be offended by it.
But like, keep it all generic. Like any food items, billboards, posters on walls. Keep it all generic.
It would be kind of fun to have everything sort of look like the obey signs in They Live.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just amp that up.
Yeah.
Gas at the gas station, just gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, even the cars. I mean,
if we keep it in the 80s too, you could make a few Trump jokes and like, oh God, that guy's not president.
Yeah, you can have some fun with that. And even with the cars, I mean, the only car that actually has an identity be the Malibu. All the other cars are just car.
Car.
Yeah.
Car.
Yeah, I like that.
Car.
I like that.
Yeah. Keep the interest in the placement on the storyline itself and the actors.
Right, and then it really makes that car, the Malibu, that much more.
Yeah, your colors are black, white, and gray, except for the Malibu.
I mean, they can be like the old Dodge K car. Like everybody knew what it was, nobody wanted one, but apparently there were still a million of them on the road. Right?
They were giving them away in cereal boxes.
I mean, the K car wasn't around when this movie was made, but we can move it up a few years so that we could use the K car.
Well, and I mean, you could feasibly just, because Val wasn't sure what era this took place, we could make that even more of a thing where you're not sure.
Yeah.
Where certain aspects feel like 80s, maybe, and then somebody whips out something that looks like a modern but still has a weird retro-looking cell phone.
Yeah.
We could have things that just make it, we're not so sure when this takes place.
And that I like that ambiguity of it. Yeah.
There was that one moment in It Follows where I thought for sure that movie took place in the early 80s, and then somebody whips out what looks like a compact, and it's actually like an iPad or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Just to really fuck with you. I'm like, well, now I have no idea what's going on and where we are.
Yeah,
and when we are.
Yeah, somebody posted something about that on about when are we getting this compact e-reader? Right?
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, that'd be like so cool to have something like a book that small that you can carry around.
Yeah, so to have certain things like that, I think to make it a little obscure, you're not so sure. I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, and I mean,
and it just adds to the weirdness, and I'm all about adding to the weirdness.
Yeah, the only way to make this film more interesting is to make it weirder. You cannot take away the weirdness.
But it's got to be weirdness with a purpose.
Yes.
And that's just something that Alex puts in there. Like, sometimes it's just for a laugh, but for the most part,
it still has a purpose.
It has a purpose.
Yeah. Fix the pacing on the scenes that should be action scenes need to be paced a little bit differently.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, pretty much the scenes that were the least interesting were the Repo scenes. Yeah. I'm like, that's what this movie's called. Yeah. Those should be better. And the people with the cars, you should be able to tell a really quick story about who they are and why they're losing their car in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have reality TV that does it, why can't we do it in a movie within the same amount of time? I mean, especially if that scene's dragging on, you could use it to better effect by telling that person's story really quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. They'll sometimes repo a car and they don't really care about the person. And at one point, they're tossing out all these gifts in the car on the highway, and like the gifts are full of money. Like, it's worth way more than the car they just took, and they're just tossing it out, and you don't know what's in them until another car runs over the gift or whatever.
Yeah.
This wrapped thing, and it's just full of money.
Yeah, I like the irony of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that especially like for Bud in particular, you really need to express how callous this man really is, right? Because he is. He doesn't care about anything.
He tells Otto the code, but he doesn't hold to it very well.
No. That would be the other thing I would do is just really focus on how selfish this man is. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And how it translates to Otto, because Otto is also selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only person in this whole movie who sort of seems to have any sort of compassion or interest in other people is
Marlene
and Miller.
Right. The guy who owns the...
No, not Miller. Is it Miller?
Yeah,
Tracy Walter's
Miller's the guy that is always like waxing poetic in like his different scenes and stuff. He's the plate shrimp dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The guy can't drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't drive.
Yeah. So, and he's the only one who seems to have any interest in how other people feel.
Yeah. Hey, I totally forgot to mention all of the Repo men except for Otto are named after beer.
Bud Light
Miller.
Miller.
Yep.
Well done. Sneaky.
Yeah, we're not changing that.
No, I like it. We need a French guy named Labatt for us Canadians.
Just to round it out a little bit.
That would be funny, actually. I didn't cast him. Dave Thomas, he can do that.
And a short little guy named Molson.
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
I didn't cast for that either until right now. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, but they could be background characters, right? They could be other Repo men who are in and out, but don't have like any dialogue. They can just sort of right. They'd be standing there to be introduced, right?
Yeah.
By Bud is like, yeah. So that's Sam Adams, and there's Molson, and there's Labatt. I mean, yeah. You can always take a joke that much further. Right? Yeah,
and that's Keith.
Yeah. They'll only get that if they're Canadian.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, we're putting a lot of in-jokes for Canadians, but that's fine.
Yeah.
We are. Shall we do a little recasting?
Let's do that.
I think we like the basic structure of the film.
There's so little that you could change to make this film.
That was after watching it, like, ooh, this might have been a shitty choice, but with a little bit of money and a little bit of just finessing, I think it could be slicker, and you play into that cult thing.
Yeah. I'd still want to keep that gritty, sort of washed out look that this film has.
Yeah. Don't clean it up. Don't clean it up too much.
Yeah, there's an interesting kind of look to it too. Like the cinematographer really favors two shots.
Yeah.
I noticed throughout the film. And wider shots, and like, I don't know. I mean, if anything, you want that music video kind of cutting. You want it to be pretty fast paced, and it would go really well with using a lot of punk music as your soundtrack.
Yeah, no, and I when I say the washed out look, I like that gritty.
Yeah, no,
like
I know what you mean. Yeah, tone wise.
Yeah, the way it's lit and everything. I like that. But yeah,
I think that's just because they couldn't afford any lights.
Yeah, but it works. It works really well for the subject matter. Right?
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know that I changed the way it looks all that much, but I would definitely just sharpen it up and.
Well, I mean, that way when you have your punks and maybe some of that, because there's a lot of blacks and spikes and stuff, but there's usually like lots of color in the hair and things. So when there's color, it really pops.
Yeah,
you can use color to draw people's eye to certain things in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you want people to look at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But slick up the special effects that we are using, like the arm and some of the set dressing can be made a little more modern, and yeah, update the pacing on the scenes that should be action packed. Really do need to be action packed
for sure.
Yeah,
simplicity.
Yes.
Well, but not because this movie is insane.
Yeah.
Go watch it. Except for Val, she's seen it enough.
It's a busy movie. I mean, you can't really take your eyes off the screen for a moment because you'll miss another mundane scene or another mundane line or something, and you'll be like, man, I can't believe I missed that, because you'll see something in it eventually.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, you're not going to see it all in your first go around, or at least absorb it all. Because, Jesus, every time I kind of would fade away for a second, I'm like, wait a minute, how did we get here?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so quick. Like, don't hit pause when you go to the washroom or something, because I didn't, and I missed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It is one of those movies, and that's the thing. I think that's the thing, is because you do have to be paying attention, and let's be honest, most of us don't do that very well anymore.
Right. So for that busyness, and as for a director who can really balance a lot of characters and a lot of dialogue, I could only think of one dude. I went with Guy Ritchie, and he's kind of done one like this, Rock and Rolla.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
and his career, he was a kick in the pants because he's kind of
Yeah.
He's not had a lot of successes lately.
No, Arthur.
Yeah. That's a what the fuck was he thinking movie.
Yeah. No. Go back to the fun crime
subject matter you're good at.
Yeah. I think of his best movies, and they're all in the same genre. So
Yeah.
I thought Rock and Roller was a more return to form, and to be honest, I like the first Sherlock Holmes. I don't like the second one, so I feel like he kind of got lucky the first time.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you.
Yeah, stick what you're good at, and this would be perfect for you. Now, because I want to be reverent to the punk movement, and I very much want to have cameos, I thought I'd make most of my Repo Men old punk personalities.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So for Bud, I wanted Henry Rollins.
I knew you were going there.
I knew you were going to choose him.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because we love Henry.
We love Henry. For Miller, initially I had him elsewhere as Bud, but I'm like, no, he'll be a better Miller. Iggy Pop.
Oh, well done. Yeah.
And actually after that, because I'm not really big on the punk movement at the time, but for Ollie, who owned the lot, I went with Hugh Dillon.
Okay.
Light, I couldn't find the right person for that. He's currently on Scandal, and I went with Kerry Washington.
Okay.
Or her, sorry. I wanted Light to be a girl.
Did you?
I did, because there was something there that I'm like,
I think we may have all done that.
I think it would be.
Did we all do it?
I think so.
I thought it'd be interesting if there was somebody that Otto kind of had a crush on, but from that slightly older person, so there'd be
maybe a little
an interest
romance
triangle
kind of going on.
Well, I mean, but the Light wouldn't give two shits. But
Okay.
and I think that's kind of the fun with that. It was, I wanted to have somebody who still had that personality of the original Light, but would just be, wouldn't give two shits and treat Otto like crap every time he tried to make a pass at her.
That would add a fun dynamic. Yep.
Yeah. For Otto, I went with, I instantly thought Baby Driver, so I went with Ansel Elgort. Oh, and my Layla, I went with Kea Scodelaria. She's in Maze Runner.
Okay.
Currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I couldn't figure out a Kevin, so I had Kevin written down, and then I'm like, nope, couldn't.
Which character was Kevin? His roommate dude?
The roommate dude.
Okay.
The roommate dude. I had one person in mind, but he was way too old. He's like in his 40s. Because I was thinking like that Napoleon Dynamite guy, and then I'm like, holy shit, he's old.
Yeah.
Why is 40 so old? 40s isn't that old.
Well, for to be, a school chum and roommate.
To play Kevin, okay.
Yeah. Because he totally reminded me of Napoleon Dynamite, but was way too old for the role of that I wanted.
John
him for.
Hader.
Yeah.
John Hader, yeah.
Do you want me to go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go quick here. So, for my Bud, I went Jeffrey Dean Morgan because I like that because he does that very grizzled look very well. For my Miller, I went John Leguizamo.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Nice,
Yeah.
that's a good
that.
choice, actually.
For my Light, as I've said, I think we all went sort of gender swap this role because it's a good one to gender swap.
Yeah.
I went Holly Berry.
Cool. Yeah,
Nice.
I just wanted somebody in there that it shouldn't all be dudes. And
I love the idea of having like especially in this movie set in the questionable 80s.
Yeah.
We've now made it questionable whether or not it is the 80s. It's like really badass and can play with the big boys.
Yeah.
And is kicking their ass most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? That's the character I wanted to see, and I know Halle Berry can play that character.
Sure.
Right? For my Layla, I went with Anna Kendrick.
Did you think Debbie looked like Halle Berry a little bit?
Sorry, who?
Debbie was one the punk chick.
Yeah,
Yes.
a little bit. Yeah, and that's probably what informed my casting choice.
Probably.
A little bit, yeah, subconsciously. I cast Parnell. I cast Tracy Walter as Parnell. Why not?
Sure.
Right?
Why not?
We have to have your throwback to the original. For my Otto, I went with Alden Ehrenreich, who's currently playing Han Solo.
Okay.
Which is coming out very soon, I'm guessing. I'm thinking.
Later this year.
Yeah.
I'll have to see that movie before I cast him in anything.
Yeah. I've seen him in some other stuff, and he's a strong actor, and I think he does that sort of sullen punk look really well.
Okay.
So I figured, I think he'd be a good one.
Every time I was like thinking about some of these characters, and I'm like, what would they look like with a mohawk? Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for my director, I went with Paul Feig because he does action comedy so well.
Cool.
But I like your director because he does the heavy dialogue stuff so well. That's a tough one.
Yeah, both would work really well.
Who's your director?
Paul Feig. He did Spy, Heat.
Okay.
He works with Melissa McCarthy a lot. But
who you could put as is Marlene?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Why not?
Yeah.
Or Rogers with the robot arm.
Yeah, she'd be great in that role.
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, she'd be fucking fabulous as the robot arm chick.
Oh yeah, she's got to be Rogers. We've done that. All right.
That'd be fun.
What do you got, Val?
Well, I didn't pick a director. I completely
That's fine.
forgot that we had to pick a director. But you know what? Why don't I go with Emilio Estevez? If he's dipping into the director pool, why not let him...
That seems so obvious.
Revisit,
why didn't we think of it?
Why not let him revisit this movie? He'd probably have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, he probably would.
So as Otto, I chose Daniel Radcliffe.
Nice. I kind of dig that.
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe's delicious asshole.
In joke.
Unless you played Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
I thought he'd kind of, because he's been doing a lot of really edgy stuff, right? Since leaving Harry Potter, he's kind of dabbling in. So I thought it'd be a lot of fun.
A part of me wanted to set this entire movie in London because when I think the punk movement, that's where the punk movement happened first. And for me, I was thinking, like, we should make this like a British punk movie, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, even if he's just a British punk come to LA.
Yeah.
And is very disillusioned with the LA punk scene compared to London's, right? You could add that element. Right?
Yeah.
That is a really
I don't know. I kind of like
choice,
the idea of keeping it in that post-apocalyptic LA setting.
Yeah.
And then, because it's kind of trickled to me, it felt like almost like
Radcliffe covers up his accent really well too.
Oh yeah, he's really good.
We saw you could do that in Horns. So.
Yeah. And Swiss Army Man.
And I chose The Love
Wait
of
a
My
minute,
Life.
did he talk in Swiss Army Man? He was a corpse in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to see it. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it.
All right.
You still haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my goodness. It's hilarious.
Get off my back!
Benicio del Toro is Bud.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I see it.
Yep.
I totally see it.
He'd be a lot of fun.
Nice.
And I chose Fisher Stevens as Miller.
Oh.
Because they're kind of diminutive dudes, you know, and
with
they
big
got
heads.
that like little like rat type voice, and like
You're kind of good at this.
Well, you know, I have watched a few movies in my time, so I know a few actors and actresses. Not many, handful.
This is pretty good casting, I gotta say.
And I chose Lupita Nyong'o as like.
Very nice. We all had a similar.
I want to get her out of those little Star Wars goggles and stuff and put her on the big screen as herself, you know.
In a badass role.
Let her shine. Yeah.
Nice.
Shailene Woodley is Layla. I don't really remember seeing a lot of Layla in the movie, so I just kind of, and I'm not saying, Shailene, I'm not saying you're a throwaway character. I'm just saying, you know, she'd be a lot of fun in there. I like, you know what? I like Shailene Woodley.
Layla's
Don't
important.
hate me for that.
She is important, but
she's the female lead.
Time.
Yeah.
We need more screen time. She needs more.
For being
more of a
the
presence.
central thing that links the MacGuffin of the car to these Repo men. Yeah, she doesn't play that much.
No, she doesn't.
No.
And she should play a lot more.
You should give her a little more screen time. Yep. And I chose Edward Norton as J. Frank Parnell.
He feels a little the odd man out on that one.
Yeah.
But that actually kind of works because he probably wouldn't want to be on this movie very long.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. I haven't really seen much of him. I like Edward Norton.
Every time we talk about him, it's like, oh, look, he was an asshole on this movie, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
that's my
Well, I like you
casting.
casting quite a bit. I like it.
Thanks.
I knew, I think, she revealed some of her casting to me in conversation, so I kind of knew some of it. But yeah, I wasn't, the way it all came together.
It comes together really well. The only one that
nicely.
feels a little bit weird is Edward Norton, but I didn't even cast my Parnell, so yeah, that would totally work.
Why not?
Totally work.
I really like
Actually, you know what? That's
Norton
perfect
as a Hulk.
because Parnell has very little screen time with anybody else.
Yeah.
That's perfect for Edward Norton.
Yeah, and really, he doesn't
Kinda on his own.
have a ton of dialogue until he picks up Otto.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which was kind of weird that he picked up Otto out of nowhere. But it's amazing how things just kind of come to happen all the time.
That scene was actually kind of funny because he gets the car, Parnell gets the car back, and Otto is chasing him down the road, and it looks like the hottest, brightest, sunny day. And like 5 minutes later, like, he runs down and he catches up with the car and he hops in again, like as if he's welcome back in the car, and it's late at night. It was like a 5-minute run down the hill. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and you would
So
think
day
this
and
guy
night.
who's slowly going insane because of this car wouldn't want it back. He'd be kind of relieved it got stolen. I think this car should have this kind of weird pull on him. And when he finds the car again, I would have liked if the door had opened by itself as if to invite
To
him back.
welcome him back,
Yeah.
because he's the rightful owner of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The car chooses who belongs, and that was very apparent near the end of the movie when none of the men in black and the scientists could get anywhere
Even in the
close
radiation
to it.
suits, yeah.
Even in the radiation suits, and then Miller and Otto just walk in up and
Kind
crawl
of
in.
like Christine. The
Right.
car knows.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like
cars.
that, especially and I don't know that I'd change the effect with the car. I think I'd stick with the
glowing paint.
The glowing paint.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it doesn't come off like it's this overlay. It would have been just kind of this weird animation on the car back in the 80s, and because there weren't computer effects or whatever, so it comes off. It still holds up because it doesn't come off cheesy.
No, it doesn't. You'd think it would, but it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could use CG to smooth it out a little bit, but not so much that you can't tell it that.
Yeah, now you got CG. I mean, you could give it almost a Aurora Borealis effect to it.
Yeah.
That would be kind of neat.
Just don't clean the movie up too much. Try and keep it as raw as it was in
Sometimes if you do it
1984.
too clean, it really works against the film.
It just feels like it's too modern,
I think
too
of-
forward thinking, and the idea of having that punk music and the generic and everything like that. Just like
Yeah.
keep it basic and focus on your characters.
Yeah.
and-
Have you ever seen 30 Days a Night, the
Yeah.
vampire movie?
Yeah.
And I, as much as I like that movie, I think the worst aspect to that movie is it looks too good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what the type of story it's telling. And like, it's so clean and smooth looking, and like
And if you look at the comic books, I mean, they're
It should be.
pretty raw. Like they're pretty rough. Like they're not really fun
yeah.
to detail.
So
Like,
I mean, it doesn't fit the tone of the film at all.
no. And that's what sort of what I was talking about, was not cleaning it up too much, keeping that look that was specific to the way that movie was shot in the first place. I mean, we have better cameras, but we also have filters that will allow us to give it that look.
Yeah, now that we're moved away from deliberately choosing film for its grain and stuff, now you kind of have to generate that if you want to have that particular look that a film would give you, a particular film stock would give you. The art of utilizing that to a certain effect has kind of gone away because now you're just picking computer filters and whatnot.
Yeah.
You got to be a little more aware of how you're going to paint with that canvas because it's a very different brush now.
It is, and that's why one of the other directors who popped into my head was Tarantino, because he does do that and he does do it very well. But I'm like, but I'm at the same time, I'm like, well, and he'd probably leap at the chance to do if he's going to do a remake, he'd probably leap at the chance to do this one because clearly he's a fan of the movie.
Yeah, that would be great, and we can get him off doing Star Trek.
Yeah.
He's doing Star Trek?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Hold, rewind. Quentin Tarantino is doing Star Trek?
Yeah, he had a Star Trek script, and I guess we're going to get an R-rated Star Trek movie because
Interesting.
JJ's put that on the fast track, getting that script moving.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want it.
I don't want it. But you want it. It'll be like a train wreck. You can't look away. You're going to have to watch it anyway.
Yeah, do you know what they call a hamburger on Vulcan? Nothing. We blew it up.
Can you hear my exasperation?
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I don't want that movie. Sorry. I can think of lots of things Tarantino would be good at. Star Trek is not one of them that readily comes to mind.
Well, he hasn't really. You know what? The more I think about it, is like I've never seen like true science fiction from Tarantino. So you know what? Maybe he's going to do it clean.
And maybe, maybe he has a reverence for it that I am not expecting. But, I mean, does it have to be R? There are certain aspects to that new Star Trek series, Discovery, that bug me too. I'm like, why are we getting Klingon nipple? Why are they dropping the F-bomb? Like, this does not feel like Star Trek to me.
No, because there's a certain sensibility about Star Trek. We're
Yeah.
way off topic. One of it is sort of the cleanliness of the society, right? Like the way they speak and how orderly it is, right? So yeah, I can see how that would be off-putting. I haven't watched Discovery, so I don't know. Val's right. It's going to be it's like a train wreck. You have to see it just because
Yeah. Well, and who knows? We'll try to give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess, until if it ever gets made.
You know, this man has been a great director. He's done a lot of good movies. I'd like to think that he's versatile and that he'll be able to kind of adapt.
I don't know if he's going to be directing it or he's just written it. I don't expect him to direct it. I actually expect that it's going to be his script and somebody else will direct it, personally.
Yeah, it could be. Because he has written scripts that weren't quite so frenetic as most of his films.
Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. It'll be fine. It'll be fine, everybody. It'll be okay. It'll be all right. Don't panic.
It's very motherly.
Yes.
It's cool. It'll be all right. It's okay.
Yeah, but back to Rat.
Thanks, Henry. Yeah, so I don't know. Any last thoughts about Repo Man? I mean, we can't really get into every aspect of this movie because there's so many little bits of it, and you really have to see it for yourself. But, you know, I think overall the structure of the film still works. Smoothing it out will work. And, I mean, you can update and change the dialogue a little bit. A little more budget will definitely help this movie. And the ambiguity of the time frame will just add to a little bit of that weird tone to it. I think it could work as a remake again, especially with the cult audience that the first one has, but at the same time, I don't know. I mean, do movies like this have a place right now? They would certainly stand out in the big budget movies of superheroes and science fiction that we got right now.
Well, and that's the thing is almost nothing does as well as those anymore. So when you're looking at making a movie, you need to have a target audience, right? And this one here, I think, would get a very interested audience, especially with, as you mentioned, this sort of revisiting of the 80s and 80s culture. I think you could remake this movie, but it would be very close to a straight up remake.
Yeah, you know, and I don't see it doing well theatrically as a remake, but on a platform like Amazon Prime and Netflix, I could see that do quite well.
Yep.
Well, rework the script a little bit, add a little more comedy into it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel like some of the comedy in this falls a little flat, mainly because you're constantly distracted by something else.
Yeah.
So some of the jokes don't land, or sometimes they go over your head.
Yeah, and sometimes they're dated.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's always a factor. And then picking up the pacing on the scenes that need to be faster paced. Right? Like, there's not a lot of them. There's one scene in the bar.
I mean, the pace should feel like a punk song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a few scenes where and it's just a few scenes where it doesn't, and that's and that where that frenetic pacing the rest of the movie has, it kind of just like then all of a sudden you get this slow down. And it almost pops you out for a few moments. Like there's that scene in the bar where the punks are kissing the metal hand, and that scene just went on just a smidge too long for me. Right? And there's a few of those scenes like that where when I just went on a little bit too long or weren't paced just quite right. But considering that this is a first or second film for Alex Cox, I mean he did a great job. All things considered.
Yeah, no, he created something really unique, and it stood out in the 80s, and it stands out now.
Yeah.
You know, every time we do this, it's like, oh, now I want to see the remake.
Well, that is the intention.
To make that, I want to see the remake now, because your head's going, oh man, it could be so cool, it could be so good.
Yeah.
They could remake it into something that I'd actually want to watch.
Well, that's why we were so happy to do Highlander a couple of weeks ago, because that remake or reboot is happening and saw some movement recently again. So we're going to beach to it, and if you hadn't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it, because we want to give the guiding hand so they can not make the same mistakes twice. Now, if there's any other cult movies you want us to remake and rethink, let us know. You can hit us up on our Twitter. We are at Invasion Remake. We're Invasion of the Remake, of course, on Instagram and Facebook, and Invasion of the Remake at gmail.com. Do us a favor, leave a short review and a 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts. If you're viewing us on YouTube, ding that little bell so you get the notifications, and, of course, subscribe. Tell your friends how to find the show. We are on a ton of different platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Blueberry, TuneIn Radio, Player FM, Audio Boom, Spreaker, and a whole lot more, and even frickin' YouTube.
Really? That's cool. I had no idea. I don't know.
You're not here every week.
I'm not here every week.
You're our substitute Trish.
I am. Well, I'm not as schooled. I'm not as schooled as Trish is when it comes to like the media and pop culture and stuff. She's kind of like a little more of a goddess in that respect. But I do enjoy participating. So thank you for having me, and thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Today.
Well, thanks for filling in.
And you do know what you like, and that's important. That's what it comes down to. As long as you know what you like.
That's right. And, not every episode's going to be to everybody's liking, and that's okay. You like what you like. Just don't be nasty in the comments.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Val. I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
She continues to be Val.
Yep. That's me.
We are out of here.
Who done that to you, son? Who done what?
Why, he says, want to talk about guts. Look at your face, kid.
That's some dude. It doesn't matter.
I guess it does.
Why don't you do something, Pletchner? Aren't you a cop or something?
Marlene, I'm on my coffee break. Repo man don't go running to the man, Marlene. Repo man goes it alone. It's a rebound.
Just like John Wayne.
Damn right, just like John Wayne. What's wrong with that?
Greatest American that ever lived.
John Wayne was a fag.
What did you say, man?
What? John Wayne was a fag.
The hell he was!
He was too, you boys. I installed two-way mirrors in his pad in Brentwood. And he come to the door in a dress.
You're fucking nuts. That doesn't mean he was a homo, Miller. A lot of straight guys like to watch their buddies fuck.
They do?
No, I do.
Yeah.
Don't you?